are back live. Fuck you, Denny. Fuck you, Dad. Commenting in there. Fuck you, Sid, for the laugh emoji. Okay, give it a second. I want to build up.
You want to build up? Okay.
My thing said I broke every electronic in my apartment in one fell swoop. Be right back. Dude, I'm pissed. It's not bad. What happened? You're gonna go, holy shit, that's hilarious.
Okay, yeah.
It's gonna get to a place where we can laugh about things.
I just love that using a brand new software, I'm the one that's actually doing okay. This makes no sense.
This story, I can tell you with a straight face, has nothing to do with the software.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
We're back live. All right. So, what happened was, so I got up and let's reset the stage.
Reset.
It's a coffee milk stout. I pick up. So I left my Black Abbey glass at home. The Black Abbey glass is at home or at work. That is the glass that this type of beer would primarily go into, right?
Like that is true. Yes. Beers do have specific glasses. I can't.
Amazing, love it. So I can't find it. So I'm pulling, and I'm like, whoa, I have a glass that I should be using. So I'm looking, not in the kitchen. Because all the Pittsburgh glasses I have are just dusty. And I'm like, all right, wait.
Right.
I find the glass, which you can't see, but is the Jackie and Ty anniversary mug from their wedding.
Aw, I like that. Okay.
Their anniversary, I believe, was yesterday.
And shout out King and Jackie. Good on them.
I know exactly where the glass is. It is next to the bed on the shelf, at which Catherine decides to hoard all of my cups. So I go in there and I grab it. I'm like, okay, cool. I just need to rinse it off.
Okay.
And I plugged into the internet.
Yeah.
Right now. And it's okay, there we go. It's reconnected.
Yeah. You froze the moment that you were talking about Kat piling her cups over there and you need to clean it.
Not happy. Not happy camper. Great first week back, not great second week. I don't need you.
It's early. Give us some time.
Send that to Sid. So we, me, the glass. My apartment, my Wi-Fi connector is in the bedroom.
Okay.
So when I do the show, I drag the router out and connect it to my PC out here.
Fair.
I hadn't done that yet.
Okay.
And so I go, oh, I can do that while I'm in here. Water. Who knows how long it's been in there? Greg, water comes out and lands on my extension cord and the cord in it. And I'm like, okay, well, this is clearly a problem.
Hazardous, yes.
And so I am like, all right, regardless, I'm going to have to kill the show for a second.
Right.
Unplug that, plug that into the wall.
Yeah.
I just drag it for a second. I'm like, it's not like it's broken. I come out here. I put my hand on top of the PC to pull it out to plug in the cord.
Yeah.
Power button. Power button. Fat-fingered power button on the PC, and it says, do you want to shut off your computer? And I hit cancel, and it just shut off. And so I have no internet. So I'm like, all right, whatever, unplug it.
Right.
Plug it into the wall. And so then you have to sit here, and you have to wait for the internet to come back on. And we're back.
We're back.
Yeah.
What is the lesson from this experience?
It's just I guess get stop staying at work late for a half second so I can.
I was gonna say tell your girlfriend to stop stockpiling cups by your router.
I mean that's a part of it. Is the anniversary cup. Anyways, that's what happened.
Off to a rooting start. It's cool, man. It's cool. That's great. That is great. Almost could have had a massive emergency in your apartment.
The water like skipped up and landed literally where you would plug in from the extension cord in my router. And I'm just like, gonna start a fire or something.
Yeah, or get electrocuted, perhaps, which is both are very bad situations that can come from this.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I am curious how long that water's been there, actually, now that I think about it.
Oh, I rinsed it out, and I forgot I can show it on screen. Yep, great first week back. Not a second great week.
It's all right.
So what's up with you?
What's up with me? Same old. Not much I can complain about. I don't know if you've ever like established this or anything, or I've ever established this to the internet world or anything, but I am a very boring person. I don't know if you can tell that or not, but cool thing that I did get this past weekend, I added to the Hasbro collection and got me a new.
Where did you acquire this from?
I was at Toy Hio this past weekend, which is it is a toy convention that is at the, I can't remember which city in Ohio. It's like right near Boardman, but I can't remember. It's like right on the border actually of PA. It's like 6 minutes up from it. It's a 3-time-a-year thing where they have like a bunch of different smaller vendors from around the country, and they just bring like a bunch of like vintage stuff, and you kind of look around. It's like this big expo type thing. It's in 3 different like rooms in it and stuff like that, and they sell like vintage stuff. They'll sell newer stuff, and there's some cool stuff that like just kind of like I can look around and buy. I bought a couple graphic novels. I bought a couple other small things, but yeah, that was added to the collection. So I got that this weekend. So I'm quite happy.
How much did you spend on it?
That was probably like $20.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, if I would have
like vintage toys, because I know vintage.
No, well, like if I would have gotten it like in its like original packaging and stuff, it probably would have cost me like $100.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, I'm not into like the on card type stuff or like the package type stuff yet. Like I'm more of like I'd rather just kind of like keep them out like that.
Did you sneak a yet in there?
I did.
Said, okay. I did. Do you have plans on becoming more of a toy connoisseur?
I did. Sorry, what was that?
Do you have plans on becoming more of a toy connoisseur?
I don't know. It depends. Like these ones. What I appreciate about them is like these were for like the history of like WWF figures. Like first it was LJNs, which was like in the late '80s, and then these came out in like early '90s. So like I don't have the strongest memories of them, but I do have like recollections of the commercials and stuff. And I never had them growing up because I was born in '91, so like these came out like about a year before I was born. So I've always kind of like wanted to have them and stuff. And they start from like the '90s and I think go to like early to mid 1994. So there's like a decent collection of them. So I just kind of always thought like, you know what, I like them. If I ever get in the mood and I have some like spare cash, I might as well just get some for myself, and we'll see. I haven't gotten bitten in any other bug yet, but it's possible. But
what other bugs are you looking to get?
I don't know yet. It just depends. Like you can go to like a bunch of these like toy stores. I'll see like fucking like Marvel Legends and all that. Like that is overwhelming at times. There's the Todd McFarlane DC figures that are just unbelievable. There's Ninja Turtles, there's Power Rangers, there's all this other stuff, and I just haven't like crossed that bridge yet. But eventually, we'll see when I have more disposable income. But for now, I'm okay with these to start, and then whatever graphic novels I find I'm interested in. So,
good to know.
By the way, speaking of graphic novels, since I brought this up to you last week, you started watching Invincible.
I have finished season 1 of Invincible.
Okay, what are your thoughts?
Amazing. It's one of the coolest concepts, very cool story. I have more questions than answers, obviously, which is fine. You read the novels of them?
Yeah, so the reason I read it is because my friend that I share like my graphic novels with and stuff, he originally got me hooked on this one series called Starman, which I read, and it was like six thick like books and stuff, and I loved the story, loved it completely. And then he said to me, "Have you ever read Invincible?" And I said, "Oh, I've heard of the show, but I've never read the comics." And he said, I have the entire series. It's 3 compendiums that are like the thick boys that.
Yeah.
And he was like, "It's up there with Starman." And I said, "Really?" And he said, "Yes." And I read them. I read them all the way through and stuff. The artwork is beautiful. The story is what I loved about the story is like there's so much character growth in it that one issue you like a character and then within like 5 issues you dislike them, or within like you kind of like don't understand the rationale for someone and then 5 issues later it's like, oh, I can understand like his reasoning for this and stuff. Yeah, so I haven't seen the cartoon, but from what I was told, I believe first season encompasses like the first 14 issues. So I think you would have ended it. First season would have ended like around the time that you find out about the dad.
He flew away to Viltrum.
Yeah, and Mark is talking to Alan like at the end of the episode, like saying he's going to graduate high school and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah, the funniest part about that all is that is Seth Rogen, and I love Alan the alien.
Yes, Alan is my favorite character in the series, and it's interesting. Like in the first like half of the series that I read, I love him, and in the back half, he has to take on more responsibility and stuff, and you start to like not like him as much because now his ideas and stuff and like his choices are like really against what you think.
No, Mom, I think Greg is just loud. I don't think there's anything I can change in terms of mine, but I will turn Greg down a little bit and speak a little louder.
Mic check.
No, I mean my mic's technically working.
Yeah, it's weird. I'm using my computer even. I'm not even using a microphone or anything.
The thing I probably like the most about it is how big the cast is with huge names. Like Goggins being in it, Mark Hamill being in it. You get Zazie Beetz, J.K. Simmons, like, hold up. The Invincible cast, yeah, all of them. Lauren Cohen is a huge name. You get Mahershala Ali as Titan, which is such a cool character. Jason Mantzoukas, just being Rex Splode is hilarious. Like, they really do a good job of everybody being awesome, but being themselves. Like John Hamm being a voice actor in it. I did hear something funny that it was like they ask Bryan Cranston every season to do a voice, and he just says no. And they have this tradition of like just asking Bryan Cranston if he wants to be in it, and him saying no.
That's awesome. Because essentially, like Bryan Cranston like started his career as a voice guy too, so it's like it's very funny that it's like full circle that like he just doesn't want to do it at all. Although there's hope out that like I could picture some characters that like get introduced later on that he'd be perfect for. And actually, I've already seen stuff for season 3, some of the announcements, and like one of the rumors, I guess the guy from Breaking Bad, I can't remember the actor's name. He's like the bald guy with not Giancarlo Esposito, but like the bald guy with like the white mustache or beard or something. Like there's a rumor of who he's going to be playing in season 3, and I think that's a phenomenal choice for that character.
One thing, so let me see. So season 3, okay, that's what's happening right now.
Yeah, season 3 is happening right now, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, the break of it, because I knew they did season 1, season 2 had a half break, so it's tough, like to get into. But they also have a special.
Yeah, they have an Adam Eve special. That's like that tells you like her backstory and how she like because they mention it in the comic briefly, and there's like an actual like separate like one shot that talks about like how she was like kind of conceived in a laboratory and stuff, and how she was replaced with her parents and stuff like that. So it's really interesting.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to start season 2 tonight. We will see what happens there. I had intended on getting us a mock to react to, and then Workday just became Workday. So I figured we'll obviously do a mock.
Yeah, I mean we could all. I haven't seen it, but we could pick apart Field Yates' horrible mock of us putting Jackson Dart at 21.
Yeah. So I had found a site. Don't mind the commentary on this because I don't. It's ugly.
Like in what way?
Like the write-ups. Like this is the blog that shows all of Field Yates' selections, but the write-ups are trash.
Okay, got it.
Reminds me of our early days. So let's discuss just openly. Let's start with number 1 overall and react to Travis Hunter. So the school of thought here would be the Tennessee Titans are giving Will Levis 1 more year. They'll probably bring in some additional competition. When I first saw this, the way I reacted to it was the Tennessee Titans, by making this decision, are saying that the slate of quarterbacks coming out next year are just better. That is one thing I think about with this, because they are the worst team in the NFL. Just had the schedule it is. Putting Will Levis back out there is admitting defeat, but I don't think a guy like Callahan wants to keep in the bottom. But I also think he could be like, hey, like, let's get this generational guy, and then the next year, if we're still just as bad, we could get in the Arch Manning running or something like that. That's where my head was at with Travis Hunter at 1.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I'm pretty sure their GM even said something about along the lines of, like, if they stay at 1, they want a generational talent there.
What they said was that they will not pass on generational talent at 1.
Okay, yeah. And I mean, I think it's fair to say Travis Hunter is probably the clear and cut generational talent in this class, because he's the closest we will ever have to, or probably will have for a long time, as a two-way player.
He is there's 2 players, 2.5, I'll say.
Okay.
There are 2.5 players in this class that I believe will be generational talents without a thought, question, concern. They are Travis Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
They are Mason Graham.
Okay.
And the half is Abdul Carter. I don't think I dislike Abdul Carter. I think if we're looking at blue chip, sorry, I'm just doing a little management of my room real quick. If we're doing blue chip guys, Mason Graham and Travis are the guys that I'm saying are as blue chip as they come. Mm-hmm. Abdul Carter, freak of nature, number 1 edge in the class. He's a guy that earned his draft stock. He spent so much time in this tape, like the Ohio State tape is crazy.
Yes.
He is a bending guy. Everyone's comparing him to Micah Parsons. The only thing I will say about him is that if he's going to rise that far, like, that's why I give him a half. I think he's there because he's an edge rusher. If we're looking at true blue chip, I still have Mason Graham as the number 2 player in this class across the board. But that's why I have it at 2.5. And so those were the guys. You're not taking Mason Graham 1 overall. You just
no. I hate the comparisons to Micah Parsons for Abdul Carter, because they're completely different players. Like, Carter's a true edge guy. Like, Parsons was an edge guy, but Parsons also had like the athletic freak to be able to move into spots. Like, Carter can't do that. At least if they can, they haven't tried it. But he's a pure edge guy. If you want to say like as a pure edge guy, like, if you want to try to compare him to Myles Garrett, go ahead. Like, he doesn't have that type of like domination or anything like that, but
more the Von Miller than the Myles Garrett.
Yeah, he's more Von Miller. He's a little bigger than Von Miller, I think, but like in a 4-3 system, like, he could definitely dominate it depending on the right team that he's with. So I think that'll go well. But yeah, I don't view him as generational. I don't know if I consider Mason Graham generational, because I think there's so many defensive tackles that come out there every year, and I think because like for me, like when I remember seeing Aaron Donald play, like, I saw the talent. I don't know if I consider him generational. Mason Graham is like this weird situation where I know the talent is there. I've seen it on tape, but is it going to translate to the pros right away?
Interesting. I have zero doubts in anything that I've ever seen about this kid. He's a junior. Mm-hmm. And he gets in year 1, and I have his stats up. This is not from top of mind.
No, go ahead.
2022 is true freshman year. 27 tackles, 14 solo, 2.5 sacks. You then get to 2023, 35 total tackles, 23 solo, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble and a fumble recovery. Mm-hmm. Last year, 2024, 46 total, 3.5 sacks. Like, this kid at a team that was a national championship winner, arguably was their best defender. And for me, if you look at what we talk about, which is there's, kind of 2 schools of thought. You need a guy to protect your quarterback, be your quarterback, and attack the other team's quarterback.
Right.
The other flip of it is, though, if you look at the accordion that we kind of always talk about in a way, tackles and edges, and then you get better defensive linemen, which means you need better centers and guards, which means you need better, like that whole thing. He is the reason that Quentin Nelson's exist. He is the reason that teams need Jason Kelsey's, for example. And I hate being the Quentin Nelsons and Jason Kelsey because those are two premier guys.
Right. But I get
he's the reason interior line needs to be a priority across the board. Tackle's huge. Do not get me wrong. Mason Graham to me is prototypical, high engine, great kid. I don't see a chance he misses. Is more where I'm at.
Even depending on like the team he ends up going to.
I don't think it matters. I think the only way it matters, and I guess I'll bite the bullet here. The only way it matters is if he does go to a 3-4, because then it's just, do you put him at nose or do you put him as that edge guy? And I think he would thrive as a Cam Hayward in that. But if you really set him up in a 4-3 where he is just running next to two edges and another DT, this guy is bona fide 100% home run stud.
Yeah, and thankfully the majority of the NFL runs 4-3 anyway, so like I don't think it'll be that much of a concern depending on where he goes. So
second overall pick, Cleveland Browns. It's interesting. When we first found out the order, everybody was like, oh, Shedeur and Cam. Obviously, the more things come out, the more we understand situations, the more you see the Cleveland Browns situation, the more Myles Garrett puts in a trade request. Abdul Carter starts to make a lot of sense.
It really does, but it makes sense even if Myles Garrett is not traded. It does.
100%, yeah.
Yeah, because like putting two premier edge guys on the side, even if Myles Garrett, like eventually, like, because he's what, 28 at this point right now? In a couple years' time, Myles Garrett is probably not going to be around in Cleveland.
29, but his birthday is in December, so it just turned 29.
Okay, so like he's in his prime right now. Like in a couple years, he'll be kind of near the tail end of it. So if you might as well like get someone ready to be the next pass rusher in Cleveland, this is not a bad take at all right there. Play him off the other side, get his numbers up and stuff while everyone pays attention to Myles Garrett. Why not? And even then, like the Browns aren't inclined to handle his request if he wants to.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of twofold. On one side, as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, as an anti-Cleveland guy, fun city when it's not being douchey, I understand fully what Myles is saying because two things. One, does want to be competing and get to playoffs, and I think this Deshaun Watson contract is going to go down as the single worst contract in the history of sports, worse than Benito, worse than any contract from a draft. I think this is going down in the history as the worst contract in sports. But two, when you have a GM who says the words, we want Myles to go from Cleveland to Canton, and Myles specifically says, I don't want to go from Cleveland to Canton, to me, this isn't this isn't just some angry sentence from Myles. I fully believe we have seen Myles Garrett's last snap as a Cleveland Brown. And they might not entertain it, but I'm talking camp holdouts. I'm talking everything. Because, Greg, he's already made all of his money. Everyone knows he's arguably the best defensive end in the entire league. He is the Joe Thomas of this defense. He has been consistent and nothing but good, and he is an ambassador for Cleveland, minority owner for the Cleveland Cavaliers. This dude has done nothing but give his heart and soul for Cleveland. To put out a statement like that does not come with an apology after.
No. It also really is very telling for someone that's done everything that you could ask for, and he still decides that this is...
Absolutely.
I've had it. Yeah. And it's fun. And it's funny to even point out here, he said all the right things too. Like even when the media and like most people were questioning Deshaun Watson and how like rough he was playing and stuff, even when like Deshaun Watson had the Achilles injury and there were some fans and even like people that were celebrating it and stuff, and he even like came up and said, don't do that. He was very upfront. He was very franchise first guy and all that. So now the fact that he's making this decision is very telling.
Yeah, very much agreed with that. All right, let's keep shuffling here. Number 3 overall, the New York Giants select Cam Ward, quarterback, Miami. 2 questions. Does Cam deserve to be the first quarterback taken? And do you believe that the Giants are actually going to select a quarterback with all the rumors that are going around right now?
Does Cam deserve to be the first quarterback taken? Yes, because of the season he's had, because he is probably the most pro-ready. You can make that argument about the fact that he's the oldest if you want, but that's just how I think.
5 years in college.
But that's just what the league, that's what college is producing now, because so many guys are going to stay in college to collect the NIL money, which is not a knock on them or anything. In terms of do the Giants take a quarterback, I think it's pretty obvious unless like the rumors are.
The cup.
Okay.
Celebrate Ty and Jackie.
Shout out to the Pingries.
It was yesterday. Fun fact: when I first left the party to get on the party bus to go back to Ty and Jackie's, I had accidentally stolen from her father-in-law a blank glass. Just there were all these glasses. I took a blank one. Just took a blank one. Didn't even think twice. Grabbed a glass. I took one of his bar glasses. It was very funny. Anyways,
and it ended up being the same glass that was used. That'd be funny.
No, this one has their anniversary on it. The reason I bring up the rumors for Cam Ward, so two things. Let's unpack that.
Okay.
This quarterback class is weird. I think this is a class. I don't think we have a Jaden Daniels in this class.
No.
I don't think we have a Drake May in this class. Maybe we do. I think we have two guys who, in great situations, could be really good quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. I think we have a guy that's getting a lot of inflation. The thing that's really intriguing me, though, is allegedly we are in the rumor mill, which is why we'll talk about Trevor Lawrence in a bit.
Yep.
The rumors are the Giants would ship this pick to the Rams for Matt Stafford and a 6th-round pick. That has been the exciting rumor going on right now. If you were the New York Giants, would you, Greg, you're GM of the Giants, you have missed on Jaden Daniels, you have missed on Daniel Jones, you have missed on everything since Eli Manning was a starting quarterback. You have lost guys like Kadarius Toney. You have misdrafted almost across the board. Middle tackle. What is the true benefit of getting a guy like Matt Stafford right now?
You are, at the very least, with that team that is currently constructed, you put Matt Stafford on that team, you are probably 8-9, 9-8 bare minimum.
You think?
Because you still have a terrible offensive line. You got okay playmakers, I guess. Defense is still a big question mark in my opinion. Like
you have one playmaker on that whole team, in my opinion. I like Theo Johnson. It's Malik Neighbors. Wan'Dale Robinson's fine. For some reason, everybody and their grandma loves Darius Slayton. I think he's average.
Yeah.
Tyrone Tracy stumbled into a starting role. I don't believe he holds on to it. He did well. But this reminds me a lot of Dameon Pierce. Like a guy that stumbles into it. It reminds me of James Robinson.
I thought you were going to say the Tyler Algier thing, and then they got Bijan, and then it just like...
I mean, that is another situation in here where you have a guy that stumbles into the starting role, and then they go get a better guy.
Yeah.
Like, in this running back class, you can't convince me Tyrone Tracy ends as the number one.
Oh, no, but to point that out, though, like, they could easily... ship this number one. They could ship this pick to LA, get Matt Stafford, and they could still get a capable running back in the second round to be like a main ball carrier to work 100%. With.
Totally behind that. The receiving core is led by Neighbors. Their offensive line with Thomas and Neal, they're average. I love John Michael Schmitz Jr. I love his uncle. He's a good friend of the show. They don't have anybody else I truly love there. They do have Brian Burns, Dexter Lawrence. This is why they get Stafford. That defense side of the ball. You get Burns, you get get Dexter Lawrence.
Yeah.
Look at this, Kayvon Thibodeau. You have something here. It's crazy they have him as a sub linebacker, Kayvon Thibodeau. That's interesting.
Yeah.
You have a defense that maybe you don't exactly compete in that division right now, but you have a defense that Matt Stafford could make something of.
Well, let's also think about this too. Stafford produced on an offense where he only targeted Cooper Kupp.
Yep.
And everyone knew the ball was going to Cooper Kupp, and Cooper Kupp still had the Triple Crown. So really, you only need one playmaker on that offense, and Matt Stafford can make something work.
Agreed.
And actually, pointing out too, Matt Stafford also had a really bad offensive line in LA when he won the Super Bowl, and he still made it work.
Yeah.
So realistically,
this line might be better.
It might be better. And actually, Stafford would be on the end of his contract too, so even the cap hit I don't think would be terrible to stomach in that sense. So if I'm the Giants GM, I would probably do it.
One thing I'm going to do, just because I don't feel like staring at this mock, I'm going to do a one-rounder, and it's NFL database, and I'm just going to show that, and I'll just click from the site.
Okay.
Because this site just is not...
It's ugly. Yeah.
It's No, hey, it's a blog. They're doing what they can do.
Yeah.
It's not built for this conversation. So
Okay.
Abdul Carter, Giant Select, Cam. Let me shift up the share screen real quick. I do love this software compared to anything.
I do too. This is smooth. I like this a lot.
Okay, so the 1, 2, 3. We get to the 4th overall pick, the New England Patriots with Will Campbell, and this would allow us too, Greg, to discuss what we would do in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
So let's have open conversation, and then I will select Field Yates' pick.
Yeah.
Love Field Yates. Always been a huge fan of his. I think that him and Mel Kiper, their podcast is still good. Todd's on his own now, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
What are you thinking here for the New England Patriots? There's a ton of ways they can go.
I think it's obvious as offensive line, isn't it? Like, I mean, the only other spot I could see here is potentially wide receiver. But even then, I still think there's good options in the second round that they can find guys to be able to be that piece of offense that they desperately need for Drake May. But I think line protection is absolutely what they're looking for. I mean, especially with the new coaching staff they're bringing in, I feel like they have to prioritize it.
So the only thing that I would not be surprised that happens, you bring in a guy like Mike Vrabel.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Vrabel is a big line guy, offense and defense.
Mm-hmm.
My call out here, though, is this is arguably one of the worst, and I hate to say worst, but worst tackle class we've had. It's deep. It's half decent. Looking at these tackles, Will Campbell, I think we both would agree, is the one in terms of just where he's at right now, and that sucks because I think Josh Simmons is the best one. 2, Kelvin Banks is here, Josh Simmons, Armin Mimbo, Josh Connerly Jr., Arante Arisari. Then you get into Cameron Williams. Then you get into Wyatt Mullum, Emory Jones. You get down here.
There's a lot of raw talent here that just has not been refined, or you just have major question marks about.
A lot of raw talent and a lot of guys that will be pushed inside to guard if they don't work out. So that all being said, I do believe it's Will Campbell because Drake May needs protected. Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks, to their credit, were both day one starters. One at Texas, one at LSU. They are day one, walked onto campus, were the left tackles. They faced NFL talent. They take their hits. I think Will Campbell is as surefire a half decent to above average, hopefully to all-pro tackle. I love the kid. I think he's the one that had the quote that was, if a defensive lineman has a sack a game, he's like the greatest thing ever. If a tackle lets up a sack a game, he's working at Amazon. He's like, no disrespect to that job. That's just what it is. I could see them trying to address tackle maybe in free agency and going with Mason Graham, knowing the success Vrabel had with Jeff Simmons and that defense. That is the only call out I would make, is I would not be floored if Vrabel said, I need my big Jeff in New England. Here's
a thought on this one too. Now this is this is obviously very different because like I'm looking at this from the perspective of Josh Allen in Buffalo obviously is like a bigger type quarterback that they haven't necessarily like put a lot of money in the offensive line. Like there's a couple like good pieces on there. But Drake May's kind of in that similar mold where he's like a bigger build and isn't afraid to kind of like scramble out of the pocket, like maybe even like to go for rushes on his own. He still will try to like throw the ball more, but he doesn't have the cannon of an arm like Allen does, but he is willing to kind of like try to escape the pocket and make a play on his own. How much of that mindset of your quarterback kind of dictates then how much you invest in the offensive line?
A decent amount. You look at Aaron Rodgers and how he's able to move in the pocket, and they obviously have David Bakhtiari, but the rest of the line being kind of average. You look at Arizona with a guy like Kyler Murray who can move and wiggle and be a part of that. You look at what we just said with Matt Stafford, gets the ball out quick. Here's kind of my answer to that question, Greg. Can you name one offensive lineman on the New England Patriots? I have one that I recognize the name as I look at this list.
So like there's like Michael Okwuegbunam or something like that or something?
Mike Onwenu.
Okay.
Sure. That's their right guard. Keep going.
That's probably the only guy I can think of right now.
I can name Cole Strange, their backup center.
Oh, man, I forgot about him. He's a little weird pick that Belichick made.
Chattanooga.
Yes.
Their left tackle's name is Veridian Lowe, a 6th-round pick. Layden Robinson at left guard. David Andrews at center. Mike Onwenu at guard. DeMontre Jacobs at tackle. That alone changes my entire perspective, it has to be Will Campbell.
David Andrews has been around a while too, I believe.
So that is, without a doubt, Will Campbell. I think we can both agree there. I think that the interesting thing is, again, it's Vrabel. He could try to get something. Vrabel could go here and say, I want T-Mac.
Good. Very well could. Learn his lesson after losing an elite receiver talent in Tennessee.
Moving on to Jacksonville here, Greg, what are you thinking? Because this, barring our discussion, could look different.
It could. It could very much look different. I think this is Mason Graham's spot. I know they run a 4-3, so it's not like it's going to be that surprising for them to like integrate him into that defense. And we say this every time when we look at the Jaguars. They're a college all-star team. Like they just have guys on that roster that I feel like we all have either known or have looked at least once, but for some reason have just never done anything in the pros. I don't know if it's because it's Jacksonville. I don't know if it's because of them never having capable coaching to be able to work with, but they are. But I think this is probably where Graham ends up because it's a BPA pick in that sense, and I feel like Jacksonville is kind of like treading water for the last like few years anyway. So
yeah, I think so. To your point, Trevor Lawrence, Mac Jones, C.J. Beathard, Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, Dearness Johnson, Brian Thomas, Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, Parker Washington out of Penn State. You're looking at tight ends Evan Ingram, Brenton Strange out of Penn State, Luke Farrell out of Washington, Walker Little, Ezra Cleveland, Mitch Morse, Brendan Scherf, Anton Harrison. Then you get to the defense side of the ball. Josh Hines Allen now is named that. Eric Armstead, Devon Hamilton, which those DTs are interesting there. Like Devon Hamilton would play second fiddle to Mason. I love Mason Graham. What I am getting at here is if things go well, if combine goes well, if physical goes well, I would not be shocked if this is Will Johnson.
Yeah, he's been sliding in some mocks recently. That's surprising to me because for the longest time, like we've been saying, like Travis Hunter may be like the most talented player in this class, but the best corner is probably Will Johnson. Like I think that I think
100%. I don't think that's a conversation.
Because I've been seeing stuff that he's just been sliding in a lot of mocks, and I don't get why. Is it like previous injury history? Is there like some sort of concerns with him that like I'm not aware of or anything like that?
I mean, it's 100% injury history. That's what's coming in. Will Johnson, he missed half this year. I don't think it was Achilles. It was a foot injury.
Okay.
So he had a foot injury. Siobhan Ravel had an injury. Benjamin Morrison had an injury. The only guy that walked out of here is Barron. So Will Johnson, you need to keep in mind, like the injury side of things is, yes, great, it's there. The reason I still go Mason Graham is to what we were just talking about, which is talent at that point.
Right.
To what we're alluding to, though, let's entertain the idea.
Go ahead.
I hate arguing. I love you, Dre. I hate arguing with Dre because he doesn't read texts. He just says what he wants to say. That's my whole thing is like I kept reiterating my exact stance, which is that the value of Trevor Lawrence and what he's given us compared to Justin Fields and having those picks doesn't make it. There's no upside to getting Lawrence at the same age because either A, Fields is worse and we get a higher draft pick and we have that discussion, or B, we put in a random quarterback into a system we all know is flawed. But if Jacksonville traded Trevor Lawrence, I could see Liam thinking Shedeur.
Okay. That's fair. And by the way, also something that was in that text conversation that I would like to bring up is I believe someone mentioned that teams don't trade franchise quarterbacks. And then I thought to myself, well, then why would we want Trevor Lawrence then?
Why would the Lions trade Stafford?
You know, like it's just that's the thing. I wouldn't be opposed to Liam thinking that like he needs his own quarterback and stuff. And granted, like, how much am I going to believe that he's a quarterback whisperer because he helped Baker in Tampa? I'm not going to buy that totally because I think Baker's just in a better situation with a much better offense to work with than he had in Cleveland. So that kind of goes without saying. But I do like the hire, though, for the record. I don't know if we haven't really touched much about, like, the new coaching hires. I think this Liam Cohen hire could be very underrated for them.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I'm interested to see how he does there because for me, again, they have a great roster. They're in a division that's very winnable. I think Houston came down to earth. So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, like, be careful about the Houston thing because I think it's just C.J. Stroud going through the sophomore slump that like most quarterbacks technically should go through, but I think he might like kind of wake up next year, perhaps. But
also, I mean, I don't hate that.
He had a lot of receivers hurt this year too, so that could also be tricky.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Mm-hmm.
So we got Mason there, love it. We then go on to the Raiders. This is as lock, done, no conversation needed, not even a discussion. Shedeur.
Is it a lock even if they decide to do the reunion of Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson? Because I think that's a conversation.
I don't. If Shedeur is here.
Okay.
Or they bring him back and still... In my mind, there's no way they pass on Shedeur for a couple reasons. One, it's Mark Davis, Al Davis. They want to show that's what Shedeur is. Yep. Two, brand new franchise in theory. They need a young face. Shedeur's flashy. Vegas is flashy. It's perfect. Three, probably the most important factor, is the Tom Brady variable. In which Tom Brady has trained with Shedeur. Tom Brady is a media personality. Tom Brady's an owner of the Raiders. Could see it there. And four, the largest thing that I think you look at with somebody like a Pete Carroll, that ended poorly for Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson. They did not end on the best of amazing terms. I don't believe that Pete Carroll is going to get there, look at Max Crosby in the face and say, I'm going to get guys like you in here, and then turn and say, that guy is like you. To me, was one of the bigger flags of this situation not happening.
You know what? I didn't even think of that part, but you're right. Like, Max Crosby and Russell Wilson could not be more polar opposite in terms of personality and type of players that I would want on my team. You're not wrong.
Max Crosby is the literal walking embodiment and definition of the word dog.
Yes.
He is an absolute dog. Russ, just not. I could definitely see them bridging, and then, to me, let's say they do skip on Shedeur here. They bring in Russell. I think their second-round pick is Jalen Milroe or Quinn Ewers. I do not believe Davis and Brady will allow this team to walk away this season with Gardner Minshew and Russell Wilson as their quarterbacks. This team needs to prove that they can sustain success in Las Vegas for the entire league.
Yeah, even though they do have the shiny stadium and they have everything they want, I think the sizzle is massively starting to fade there very quickly, and the NFL cannot risk losing the type of market share that they would get if the Vegas team is really good this year. This is definitely, and let's also not forget too, the West is passing them by very quickly because Denver has a quarterback now, LA has a coach now, and the Chiefs are still going to be the Chiefs, so they need something.
Agreed.
Bless you.
I think I'm allergic to the little jaguar. What's up, big dog? Yeah, cool. So, Shedeur here.
All right.
Moving right along, we get to the Jets. The Jets have informed Aaron Rodgers they are not bringing him back. There is not. I am so out on the Jackson Dart stuff. I'm not even going to entertain the thought of that being an option here.
He will go. I feel like as we get closer to the draft, he's probably going to sneak somewhere in the first. He probably will.
Here's my question.
We know it's just always going to happen with quarterbacks, man. Regardless of how good or how bad they are, quarterbacks get inflated every single year somehow.
I would agree, except for one large variable.
What's that?
Will Levis. Will Levis, to me, proved that teams are okay with waiting for the second round. Because I get the fifth-year option, I get all of that. I could see the Eagles trading out, the Chiefs trading out, Jackson Dart going there. But in a quarterback class where there's not really much to pick from after Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders. You look at Quinn, you look at Jalen, you look at some of these later guys, Riley Leonard, Ryan Howard, you look at Kyle McCord. I don't believe that a team – and, dude – I didn't think J.J. McCarthy was all that. So, it is what it is. Dart has done nothing but be tall at this point to me. His throwing mechanic is crazy weird. I despise it. I would much rather have Quinn Ewers on my team. That all to be say, Will Levis opened my eyes to the ability of a guy that we thought head and shoulders. That was the first time that had happened since Geno Smith.
That you thought a second-round quarterback was going to be like...
And I thought a first-round quarterback who was going to go in the first, no matter what, fell to the second.
Okay.
I mean, Hackenberg, maybe.
After his freshman year, yes, but his freshman year, sure, but like the next couple of years were kind of rough at Penn State, in fairness.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Bill O'Brien goes to the Texans. The Texans need a quarterback.
We were connecting the dots. That's fair.
Still slips to the second. I'm saying there's not a time where there has been a quarterback who could easily have gone in the first that slipped to the second, like Will Levis. If that's going to happen, I have been mocking, just transparency.
Okay.
I have been mocking Jackson Dart to either the Titans or the Browns in the second round.
Okay.
And that is purely out of hopes the Steelers don't fucking take him. Anyways, the Jets, Greg. The Jets are up right now. I think a ton of need. And Field Yates has them going edge Mikael Williams.
I like that. I think Williams is going to test really well at the combine. He'll get some love because like he may not have, he was hurt, I think, a good bit of the year. He didn't produce as well as we thought he would at Georgia. But I think measurable-wise, I think he'll get up there. And I think he's a little undersized for a 4-3 defense, but I think he could fit that defense still nicely because Aaron Glenn is now there. I think they're going to prioritize trenches a bit more. I'm curious where they end up going with quarterback because I would hope the offense they're now going to run in the Jets is going to be very much relying on Breece Hall, which it should be.
Oh, motherfuckers are mocking Ashton Genty here. So
I was afraid of that. of that.
Two things I'll give you. First one is this defense is absolutely beyond stacked. DJ Reed will be a free agent, but the names I'll call out. You have Sauce, who is worse than Derek Stingley. You have Quincy Williams, C.J. Mosley, Hassan Reddick, Quinnen Williams, Javon Kinlaw, Jermaine Johnson, Will McDonald IV. Those are Solomon Thomas is a backup DT on this team.
That's a really good defensive line.
Ashton Davis, backup safety. Love it, love it, love it. So for me, I don't hate the edge talk. I do think they could use another edge. But if you have Will McDonald, Jermaine Johnson, Hassan Reddick, which Hassan Reddick's whole saga was so weird.
It was.
Them, maybe. For me, what I could see here, and just, the second thing I'm going to say to you is Jordan Travis.
Yeah, his knee will be recovered by then. I would be fascinated to see if they go into camp with like him as the guy they want to try. Because why not?
I would so give him the reins because maybe you take another guy in here to come compete with him. I would want this team to fail offensively for us to be in the running again next year. That ought to say I mean, don't get me wrong, dude. I think Garrett Wilson's a freak of nature. I could see them going T-Mac here.
I was thinking that too, especially because I imagine Devontae's going to want out if Aaron's not going to be there. So you would have Wilson, you would have Breece Hall.
Yep.
I don't know. Yeah, T-Mac and Garrett Wilson together would be a nice 1-2 punch there. Actually, what could be a wild card pick here? What about Tyler Warren here?
I don't hate that at all. I think, looking at their tight ends, they have Conklin, Jeremy Ruckert. They don't have anything. I think Warren is going to be interesting because I think he needs an offensive mind. I like Glenn. I think he's cool. I think he's fine. I think Warren needs somebody unhinged like a Harbaugh to really untap what he can do.
Yeah.
But I don't hate it. I think Warren's a really tough one for me to place. I know we keep going Colts. He's a tough one to place. I would like that pick for the Jets.
Actually, and I know this would sound weird because of who's already there, but like Warren would be fun at the Niners as well. Like that, like they use Kyle Juszczyk as a slot receiver at times. Like George Kittle's an elite tight end, but like if you add another piece like that can move around, like you can't tell me Kyle Shanahan wouldn't want to do some goofy shit with Tyler Warren as like an H-back type. That'd be a lot of fun.
Oh, that'd be a blast. But they do have Mikael Williams here going. So next team up, Carolina Panthers, Greg.
Man, Bryce Young has really turned his shit around at the second half of the season. And I remember reading something that like said like Dave Canales was quoted as saying something along the lines of like, yeah, Bryce just like realized that he needed to learn to have fun again and stop like putting all this pressure on him, and it showed. He looked like a completely different guy in the back half. So the Panthers are a sneaky team right here. And actually, this could be another fun spot for Tyler Warren, just for like the goofy shit that you could come up with on that offense to like put him through. But realistically, I would probably put T-Mac here.
Ooh,
because I could not tell you like off the top of my head, aside from the guy from South Carolina that we both liked last year that they drafted. Why am I blanking on his name?
South Carolina last year that the Panthers drafted?
Yeah, the wide receiver.
Xavier Legette.
Xavier Legette, thank you. Aside from Xavier Legette, I couldn't, and maybe Thielen, but I'm assuming Thielen's retired. Like, I don't know who else the playmakers are that he's working with. So, Legette and T-Mac for him, that'd be fun. I could dig that.
Yeah. Yeah, Legette is awesome. Legette's fun. I do wonder, like, how good he is. I don't mean that in a bad way. But
in what way? Are you saying like you don't know like if he can produce in this offense? Okay.
He reminds me of not play style but situationally Devonta Smith, which is like he's super good. He needs a 1.
Okay.
Like Devonta Smith could be a 1.
He needs a tag team partner, is what you're saying. Yeah.
And so I see you there. Xavier Legette feels like just a really good receiver, not like a Jamar Chase. Obviously, I don't.
Right.
He's very good, but needs something else there. So I don't hate that at all, and I do like your commentary about Bryce. I think Bryce stepped up, had a great end of the year. For me, though, this is where I have been mocking Mikael Williams. Edge, always a need for them. They let Brian Burns go, but for the I just kind of been rambling in a little way. Once it
Derek Brown was hurt all year too, so like they had no interior push whatsoever on that line.
Yeah, well, and in that fashion, Fields has Jalon Walker here.
Ooh, I don't hate that. It is wild that we have 2 Georgia edges going in the top 10, and like you would have told me that during the middle of the season, I would have said really, because neither of them produced like as well as I thought they would this year, but they're gonna get there because of talent, which is impressive.
Next up is the Saints. This one is super interesting. Field Yates goes with T-Mac, but there is like 4 or 5 other guys that I could see the Saints absolutely needing, wanting, and kind of going here. So where do you have them at?
Well, Kellen Moore already came out and said that I believe he said he was non-committal with Derek Carr, but he also was kind of like, he said like we look forward to talking to him and stuff like that, which is like coach speak for like I can't
assume it's Rattlers.
Yeah. The Saints are in cap hell, essentially. So they need talent in the worst way. I like the T-Mac pick a lot because like I don't think they've had a true number 1 since Michael Thomas. Like you can say what you want about
Olave.
Oh, who and the Ohio State guy, the receiver.
Chris
Olave, thank you. Yeah, Olave's good, but like he's not a 1. I don't think. I think
he was, and he's had so many injuries and concussions that it's very concerning at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't hate T-Mac at all. I think this is one of those situations where I'm sitting here, kind of screaming, "Will Johnson still on the table?" With them losing Marshawn Lattimore, with them in a division that is very winnable. It's interesting, but Field does have. Army.
I would also love Malachi Starks here for the Saints too. I think that'd be a good pick for them.
Yeah. I mean, they could go a ton of routes. They could let Kamara walk and go Genty for all we know.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we have the Bears. The Bears. This one's kind of surprising in a way. I've been kind of sending them James Pierce, but I think Field Yates has them taking Kelvin Banks, the tackle.
That's where I'm leaning. Yeah. I think Banks coming into this year had all the measurables we wanted, but he also underwhelmed a bit this year. He was kind of banged up a bit, so we don't know what to expect. But I mean, like I feel like if there's an obvious team in the top 10 that desperately needs to get something for that offensive line, it's the Bears. It's like I
can
make an argument
on his back.
I can make an argument for the Pats not getting an offensive line, but I can't make an argument for the Bears not investing in offensive line. I can't.
There is a conversation right here to go for a guy like, if he's available, T-Mac or Luther Burden, to give weapons to Caleb Williams. But that's all they tried to do last year is get him weapons, and he still ended up on the ground. I would hate the Genty pick. I think that it would be interesting. But your best bet is to invest in your franchise quarterback in Kelvin Banks. It's great.
Yeah,
and the other thing here is I don't know. It's interesting because for me, this next pick is almost sharpied in. If I'm the Bears, can you wait a second for a Simmons, who is what the 49ers have in Fields mock, just to spoil, a Simmons to get healthy? Because you're not getting Simmons at pick 10 in any other draft.
No, I think the draft is all about long-term investment, and you're mitigating risk to a degree. But if you are going to pick between Banks and Simmons, it's the conversation of who do you think is going to be the healthiest, but also who do you think is going to be the most pro-ready.
Yep.
I think, and for the record, I do like Darnell Wright. I do think he'll be a solid tackle, but I also think that Simmons is a better fit on the left side while Wright develops on the right. No pun intended. But
yeah, I'm looking at the depth chart now. Keenan Allen's most likely gone. They have DJ Moore, Roma Dunze still there, skill position. DeAndre Swift and Roshan Johnson, who I love Roshan Johnson. Cole Kmet's fine. Braxton Jones at left tackle just isn't it?
Mm-mm. No, and the Niners would be so thrilled if they got Simmons here because that's essentially like their replacement for Trent. That's Trent Williams' replacement. And Trent Williams is still playing at an all-pro level, by the way, which is near impressive for him.
Yeah, that's the justification. That's what I like here, too. A lot of my mocks have them going that direction, using a decent amount of internet. So apologies, just scrolling here. But I like Simmons because, again, you are not going to get to a place where you're going to get a Simmons at 11. And the Niners most likely are not picking at 11 that often.
No. This was a catastrophe year for them where they had so many injuries pile up that just ruined them.
And I could see, too, looking at this is becoming a very deep corner class. Mm-hmm. Johnson, Barron, Morrison, Ravel, all first-round grades, all first-round talent. A.T. Zahari Thomas, I believe is how it's pronounced. Love him. Long corner out of Florida State. Trey Amos is fine. Maxwell Harrison, another long corner. Denzel Burke, an Ohio State bred guy. Zy Alexander, LSU. Dorian Strong. You look at some of these deep corners, like there are guys in this class who will be starters in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. But it does still surprise me if you look at this mock, like these top-heavy guys are there. And I could see the 49ers saying, we still have Trent. Why take him when Will Johnson is there?
Yeah, but I also think this is the tipping point for them because this is also the time they have to pay Purdy. And this is finally I don't want to say it's the end of the run where they had all those guys just working in perfect sync with Ayuk and Samuel and Kittle and McCaffrey and all that. But
maybe.
But they got to pay Purdy. So this is probably around the time that they really got to start getting ready for that next phase of Niner football.
Dallas Cowboys are up next. They could go a number of routes. It is very surprising. Phil Yates has them going Will Johnson, cornerback, Michigan.
Really? Over Genty? Okay. I was curious about this because I feel like Genty's the most obvious pick for them, but I'm also fascinated in having this conversation of is Ashton Genty actually going to fish? Is he actually going to fix their rushing offense that much?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, we don't really have a good answer for that because they had Rico Dowdle and Zeke as the rushers. So it's you're not going to look at that and be like, oh, yeah, a guy can come in and fix that because, one, it's is the rushing attack that bad or was the rushing team that bad? That being said, too, though, Greg, Genty did not have a good rushing attack at Boise. He just was the rushing attack.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I could see them, again, this is a great landing spot for a Luther Burden, a great landing spot for a James Pierce, a great landing spot for a Tyler Warren. I do understand the Will Johnson because it's not very often, again, you get a Will Johnson at this spot. I'm still going Ashton Genty because when they were at their best, Zeke was able to run free out of Ohio State. Just fits, but I obviously This is the Field Yates mock. So
he is the Field Yates mock. Yeah, I mean, and also let's point out here too. Like, I mean, if they want to go interior, like maybe Tyler Booker, but like the interior, this interior class isn't necessarily the best either. Like, unless you want to like make Wyatt Millen like pivot to guard, perhaps. Like, I could see that.
Yeah.
But like yeah, like I'm curious how much of it was based on the fact that offensive line is just not as elite as it has been beforehand, and that's why they suffered in the rushing attack for them this year. But
I'm sure that's a part of it, man. But you can't just put anyone behind a line and assume it's going to go well. Now, here's what I'll say: if you replace this line with the Darren McFadden line, we can talk about Rico Dowdle being an All-Pro running back.
That's fair. That's absolutely.
That being said, yeah, I mean Guyton at left tackle, Tyler Smith, Cooper Bebo out of Kansas State, Zach Martin, who's probably going to retire soon.
He needs to.
Terrence Steele at right tackle. Yeah, I mean, if Simmons falls here, if Banks somehow falls here, I could see them trying to rebuild that line and do what they want with it. But I don't hate Will Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, the Dallas Cowboys were at their best when they had Tyron Smith and Travis Frederick and Zach Martin, all in their primes all together. So, like, I'm not saying like this line's going to be rough or anything. Like, I like some of those guys, but like they're not at that caliber yet. So, I think it's going to be some time to figure that out.
Next up, we got the Miami Dolphins. Field has them taking Tyler Booker. I will say this out loud. Tyler Booker, in a class full of tackles who could transition to guard, is the best guard. No questions asked.
Oh, for sure.
Nothing even a part of it. That being said, I could see Miami going a number of routes here. The main one being Malachi Starks, your boy. I could see them going edge with Pierce and Shamar Stewart and Mike Green still there. It's going to be interesting. Miami's a team to watch for what they do.
Yeah, because I can't see Miami do anything flashy in the first round because like they definitely, I think for the longest time, like especially after they went kind of all in that 1 year and then like really like loaded up on their defense and stuff, they just haven't gotten back to that level yet. I think they really need to invest on that side of the ball because here's the thing, even if I still think with the way that McDaniel runs the offense with like the zone read concept that they use like 4 different running backs throughout the year and stuff like that. So I think their O-line is okay because they're able to kind of use weaknesses and disadvantages to kind of make up for that. But I think the defense is probably the area they desperately need to like reinvest back into because that's been the weak point for them for as long as McDaniel's been there.
Yeah, I think the line protecting Tua is the priority there. I think Booker is a great slide in. He probably fills in for Robert Jones. You have Isaiah Wynn, Austin Jackson, Taron Armstead on that line. So Leon Eichberg there at guard as a back.
Not a terrible line, by the way. Just a lot of improvements.
Not at all. Next up, we got the Colts. He agrees with us. Tyler Warren. This feels as good a pick as you can make.
What is this has to be like the make or break year for Anthony Richardson, right?
Yes, 100%, no questions asked.
Yeah. How much is a guy like Tyler Warren going to aid in Anthony Richardson succeeding this year is the question.
A ton. I mean, Michael Pittman, Adonai Mitchell, Josh Downs, Jonathan Taylor, Tyler Warren, a good offensive line. This Colts team should not be bad. Let me pull it up real quick, but like looking at even their extension of their running back room, like you pay a guy, you have Trey Sermon coming, which is fine, but you have Alec Pierce there, who's another wide receiver who's great.
Oh yeah, Dre's boy. Yeah, forgot about that.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Dre's boy's boy.
Dre's boy's boy. You're right.
Bernard Raymond came out of Central as a left tackle. Quentin Nelson, Ryan Kelly. This team is built. I mean, look at the defense, dude. DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart, Kwity Paye, Zaire Franklin, Julian Blackman out of Virginia. Oh. They have a number of guys. Kenny Moore. This team should be Latu. I can keep going.
Yeah.
This team is a beautiful roster. And if a guy like Anthony Richardson can't outplay Joe Flacco, they are going to move on from him.
Yeah, so might as well get pieces now, and then in next year's quarterback class that is going to be better, take advantage of it then. So that's fair. Tyler Warren, especially, like if he's used correctly, and you could say this what you want because I don't trust tight end. I don't trust rookie tight ends at all. He could be the favorite for offensive rookie of the year, depending on the situation he goes to. If he goes somewhere that like we know a coach can utilize him effectively, I think he could be there.
Yep. Next up, Field has the Falcons taking Mike Green, edge out of Marshall. Just for the record, that is ahead of Shamar Stewart. That is ahead of James Pierce.
Is Green getting the inflation because of the Senior Bowl performance? Because hear me out. Even before the Senior Bowl, Green was putting up some great tape at Marshall. Yeah. He showed it. And if there's one thing that has been like the running joke for the Atlanta Falcons for as long as we have been draft fans is that they are terrible and have just never found a way to address defensive line in the worst way.
My brain instantly goes to them taking Shamar Stewart. Reason being, so let's look at it. Mike Green, not quite the physical specimen. No. His production's off the charts.
Yes.
James Pierce, highly touted, number 1 overall pick buzz coming into this year. Measurables don't jump off the chart. Produced fine. I like James Pierce a ton stepping into next year. Shamar Stewart, no stats in college that matter, but a 6'6" fucking freak of nature looking athlete who is a disruptor. The Falcons always miss.
They do.
And so Shamar feels like that guy. He's going to turn into that specimen, Greg, that you can't pass up on, is how I see this going. Mike Green's a great pick because he'll give you production. He will give you a true pass rush. Shamar Stewart feels like the Falcons pick because he is the Adonis-looking giant freak athlete who did not produce in college but is getting inflation.
Yeah, he will win the underwear Olympics because he'll look good and like test very well.
Shatter the underwear Olympics.
But when he actually plays football, is he a football player?
Which is a great question because the Arizona Cardinals take him next.
Shamar Stewart? Okay. So this does lead into that question. It's fascinating we have to have this conversation about how, like, when it comes to, like, do we draft the high-level athlete or do we draft the guy that we know can actually be a football player? Like, it's weird it always comes down to something like that in the draft. Because off the top of my head, there are probably times where the high-level athlete does end up being what we want, but I feel like more times than not, it does not end up being that case.
Yeah. I think that I like the Cardinals. I like Gannon taking him. I like the fact that he can grow and learn over there. The Falcons haven't had a pass rush since Vic Beasley was good at football, I guess. The last time I could think of.
That was 1 year.
Yeah, dude.
1 year.
I like them taking Shamar. We'll see what happens there. Yeah, I don't know. Shamar's an interesting man because you get into the conversation about disruption versus stats, and then you get into the conversation of developing at the next level of the game versus like just being that freak of nature athlete look. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and then to go back with the Mike Green thing, like let's also not forget he played at Marshall, and I mean like it's not the
stats are against Marshall's competition.
Stats are against Marshall's competition, so there is something you do have to weigh that. But I think it's okay to weigh that based off the fact that when you watch the tape, he looks like a football player.
Agreed. Agreed. And a football player that deserves to be in the first round.
Yeah.
Quick update. Spears are pretty good. I also haven't had alcohol in a while.
So is it hitting you harder than like?
Oh yeah, I'm on the third one. They're 5%.
Yeah, that checks out.
My face is all red. I'm like moving slower, and I'm like, what's happening?
You know, I was
dry January.
I was thinking about this because the week I come down to visit you is the week after like Easter. So like when I come down to visit, like my liver's just gonna be like completely clean and not gonna be like ready for anything that just like I intake,
which is fine. I'm going to announce the next pick and then run to the restroom because of that. And the next pick, Greg, is the Cincinnati Bengals. I want to discuss this one because there's a ton of guys, and actually I'll let you just break down your pick before we talk about it. But Cincinnati Bengals, you still got Genty, Starks, Pierce, Burden, Membo, Colston, Walter Nolan, and Big Buck.
Okay, so Cincinnati Bengals are a tough one because we don't fully. There was stuff that came out today essentially about Joe Burrow basically saying like he'll do a pay cut to be able to re-sign guys, which you can say that what you want, like if that's a leader, sure, but like if anything, like that's not Joe Burrow's job to be able to have to take a pay cut to sign more guys. It's the front office's job to try to get everyone to fit under the cap, if anything. They're in a tough spot because T. Higgins is a free agent. Trey Hendrickson is a free agent. Jamar Chase is on the last year of his contract, so there's a lot of money that needs to be doled out. But there's also a ton of situations where frankly, like the Bengals need to invest in a lot of areas. The offensive line has always been atrocious for them. Linebackers are not the best. Running game could actually use a little bit more work, even though Zach Moss has been okay. But the Bengals are a tough team to figure out. If they pass on Trey Hendrickson, James Pierce would be a great spot here. If they pass on T. Higgins, I like Andy Yoshivash, who they currently have on roster, but I would not be surprised if they go Luther Burton or maybe invest in like some late second round guys to be able to go in like Eli Ionamore or Trey Harris or something like that. I think talent is going to end up kind of being the main factor because the Bengals are another team like that where they just talent has never been something they shied away from, character or not. Like you can say if that's a Marvin Lewis type thing, but it's also like kind of carried over into the Zach Taylor era as well. I really wish that it was a better O-line class and especially guard class for them to kind of work with to be able to help build out that offensive line they're going to be working with. But for me,
oh no.
It just went away. I think we're fine.
Well, it crashed.
Oh, it crashed? Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's gone forever. That's okay. That site just sucks. Sorry, I took my contacts out. Holy crap. That site is not the best site, but we love it for mocks and stuff.
We do. Yeah, it's very clunky, but it's nice.
Let's talk about the Cincinnati pick because we know the guys, and then I'll just mention the rest of it, and we can jump into something else. But the Bengals pick, where were you leaning towards, Greg?
I'm leaning towards James Pierce.
Okay.
Yeah,
I love that.
Because I'm thinking in my head, all right, the way the Bengals are leaning is that they have a lot of guys they got to start paying soon. T. Higgins needs to get paid. Trey Hendrickson needs to get paid. Jamar Chase needs an extension. There's a couple of different school of thoughts here that, like, where are they going to invest all their money towards? And Chase is going to get the biggest one. And it comes down to between Hendrickson and T. Higgins. I think as good of a year as Trey Hendrickson had, I think T. Higgins will probably get more of the pie in this sense, and I think they'll probably also want to get some talent on that defensive line because they can't keep because Trey Hendrickson, as good of a year as he had, I don't think he's going to produce close to that again. I think
But I don't hear Joe Burrow coming out in defense of paying T. Higgins.
Joe Burrow came out today and said that he would like restructure his deal to like fit guys under the cap. For the record, he should not.
Specifically said Trey Hendrickson needs paid. I don't hear him saying T. Higgins needs paid. I think, Greg, in your defense, moving my PC back a little bit. I believe fully T. Higgins wants to be the one. I don't think.
He should. He absolutely should. He produced like a one this year.
But I don't think he wants to be just paid. I think he wants to be paid like a one. I don't think he wants to be just paid and like sat behind Chase still because Chase is the triple crown winner. He's a stud, man. So for me, for Joe Burrow to come out and say we need to pay Trey Hendrickson makes me think, oh, okay, like we got to pay him, we got to pay Chase, we got to pay a lot of guys. That means they're not paying T. Higgins, which is why I had mocked Luther Burden here pretty confidently.
I am fascinated, by the way, about like when free agency opens, like what T is going to get on the open market. I think he could get $30 million a year easily. Actually.
From who?
Teams with cap space and ones that would probably do. I think New England's the easiest one.
Oh yeah. That would make a lot of sense in this draft, especially where they're not coming out with the wide.
Especially because wide receivers probably like an area they might not prioritize early, so they might as well look at it. Off the top of my head, I'm trying to figure out who else because cap space is like the tricky part. I don't know who has like the most off the top of my head. That'd be fun if the Giants maybe would like also consider getting him, like pairing him with Malik Neighbors. That'd be fun.
The Bengals end up, and after this one, I'm going to crunch through, and then we can talk about specific places. Okay. He has them taking Walter Nolan, defensive tackle out of Ole Miss. I don't know, man. I'm not high on Nolan.
I wasn't either. I'm starting to come around a little bit because of like the measurables I've seen
over Harmon.
I think Harmon is definitely the better. If I'm looking at it from the Steelers' perspective, I like Harmon a little more. I think Nolan is probably the more talented guy. My concern with Nolan is that I feel like Nolan isn't going to be the type of player that's going to settle for just being he's not going to settle for being a guy to like eat up space. I think he's going to want to be in a defense that requires him to be a constant bull rush guy, a guy that like is a disruptor in the backfield and stuff like that. I don't think I don't know if his mindset is right for the type of defense that teams are going to want him to play in, and that's my concern. That's my only concern. Talent-wise, I think he's more talented. It's the mindset that I'm like a little nervous about.
Cool. Second half of this mock, let's crank away some here. Seattle Seahawks take Armin Membo, guard tackle at Mizzou. We'll actually stop there because he is there's a couple picks that we can just crunk through. He's a huge riser.
He is.
I think that he caught everyone kind of by surprise for this. What do you know about this kid?
Not much. Missouri guy. Like I like from what I remember seeing is that like he showed up on like a random I think he showed up on like Danny Brugler's mock near December or something like that, and I had no idea who the guy was. And then I like looked into him, and I think he has the size. I don't want to say he's a project, but I think
6'3", 332 listed as will become good starter within 2 years.
Yeah, so like I think he's one of those guys that like you're kind of dreaming on of like where does he fit on an offensive line? Because I don't know if he has the height to be a tackle, but he has like the size and potentially the strength to be able to be a really good guard. If you want to try him at tackle, you can, but I don't know how that'll play in the NFL. But I think he has the traits that guys look for. But then again, let's also point out here too that like guys going inside now is probably like all the rage, especially when Kai Becton's gonna in a ring at right guard when he was drafted as a left tackle. So
yeah, I don't hate it for Seattle. I think they have a ton of stuff they need to address, but transparently, I think he's a good addition to the line with Charles Cross next to him. Tampa Bay Bucks take James Pierce Jr., who if you would have told me a year ago today that James Pierce Jr. fell to 19, I'd say you're a shit, I guess.
Yeah, I would be. That's a great pull for Tampa to get him. I think that's a phenomenal place too, because he could he'll be on the edge with Vita Vea and oh god, my boy from Pitt, Kalijah Cansey, in the middle for them. That's a great spot for him to be able to like kind of get more one-on-ones, get more reps down there, and actually be in a culture that is like a consistent contending team. Like they're going to be like they'll be 10-7 like area like all the time and stuff, but it's enough to at least like get the playoffs every year.
Yeah. Next up, they have the Denver Broncos, who a lot of us have Loveland there.
Yeah,
it's tough, dude. I understand everyone keeps talking about how Loveland is your prototypical best tight end. He feels like Michael Mayer. He feels like these tight ends we fall in love with that just don't do shit, man. I'll be completely honest.
Is it because
I've not seen something that makes me excited?
Is it because he doesn't have that dynamic trait that we look at? So, like, let me ask you something. If you personally had the choice between Loveland or Harold Fannin, who would you go with? That's where I'm thinking.
And the reason behind it is Loveland for me. He is that pick that is he's a skinny offensive lineman. Good blocker. He'll chop some defensive ends, get out, make a couple catches. Fannin is a potential home run hit. Mm-hmm. Fannin is a freak. Fannin is that. God, I hate using comps. One thing Mel Kiper always yells at Field about, which is funny, is comps. He says, instead of comps, say plays like or flashes of. Because comp feels cemented. But he has flashes. Like Fannin's closer to the Kyle Pitts territory.
Yeah.
Loveland is closer, and this is because he's a Michigan guy, but closer to what we wanted Jake Butt to be.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So yeah, I think Fannin, and there's a couple other tight ends in this class. Actually, I really do.
Yeah, you can dream of more with Fannin. You see
100%.
Yeah, like you see stuff that like made you go wow when you watched Antonio Gates play. Like he was like the new school type of tight end that like
he stretches. He's wide receiver, like just to call it out. So I have the list up right now. Tight ends in this class: Tyler Warren, Colson Loveland. Those are both guys in the top 25.
Right.
Harold Fannin is the best receiver at the tight end position. Elijah Arroyo, tight end out of Miami, is arguably just as good as an athlete as Harold Fannin. I think he's a freak. Gunnar Helm, super, super talented tight end coming out of Texas, who will go later. Oh my God, get this ad off my screen. I'm going to freak out. Okay, there it goes. And then even guys later, like Luke Lachey out of Iowa. Like, not a guy that you're writing home about, not a guy you're taking, but a guy that you're like, oh my God, it's an Iowa tight end who can block and catch. Like, I love this pick.
We know exactly what we're getting, and we need that,
100%, dude. But yeah, Harold Fannin and Elijah Arroyo are guys I've fallen in love with because of, like you said, they have that home run ability, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is, like, we look a lot in, like, tight ends needing to be able to do everything. I don't think that's the case anymore, that, like, we need to, like, prioritize tight ends that, like, can block or something. Like, can they, like, chip or something? Fine. But, like, we're now in a sense where, like, we're in passing games and stuff like that. Like, you can get the extra blockers if you need.
The difference between a Kittle and a Kelsey. Kittle can block and Kittle can do everything, and that's why he's a god. Kelsey's a slot receiver. You can get both of them.
And you're going to look at Kelsey as the better of the tight ends because he did more. So,
two other ones I want to call out here. And these are kind of more surprises in Fields mock. So I'm going to name them all, and then we can go back. I just want to get through. Okay. Denver Broncos, Ashton Genty. Pittsburgh Steelers, Jackson Dart. Those are the two I want to talk about on top of a couple others. Okay. LA Chargers, Colston Loveland. Makes all the sense in the world with Harbaugh. I think we can see that happening. This is another one I want to talk about. Green Bay Packers, Maxwell Hairston out of Kentucky. I love him. I do not see him as there. Derek Harmon, defensive tackle out of Oregon to the Vikings. Luther Burden to the Houston Texans. I love that. Josh Connerly Jr., a tackle that I had rising up the boards there at L.A. for the Rams. Malachi Starks to Baltimore to play with Kyle Hamilton that I want to bring up because that makes no fucking sense. The Detroit Lions take Gray Zabel, the rising guard center of North Dakota State. The Commies take Emeka Egbuka to play with Scary Terry from Ohio State. Buffalo takes Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle out of Michigan that I did like the Steelers having taken early on. Kansas City Chiefs take Donovan Jackson, tackle guard, and Jahad Campbell, linebacker to the Eagles. So let's back it up.
Okay.
I want to start, and we can just go backwards a little bit there. Let's start with Maxwell Hairston, Green Bay Packers, Kentucky, because this is above, just for the record, Siobhan Revell and Benjamin Morrison and Jada Barron.
Yeah, I think probably part of it is that Hairston was healthy. He is in the Senior Bowl. So he's getting some like helium. He probably looked good in one-on-one reps and stuff like that. But I think I would be very surprised if he is a first-round corner. Very surprised. I think he has the measurables, but I think in terms of like physicality, I think in terms of like press man coverage, I think there's guys that are a lot better than him.
Yeah.
So
it's tough, man. You're right though.
Put it this way, he ain't Jair Alexander. he ain't Jair Alexander, that's for sure. So So that's a bit surprising that they would go that route, but I think Field has Senior Bowl bias in that sense, just a little bit.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think that he does match kind of what they're looking for, which is surefire. Mm-hmm. He's gonna be a good corner, but if you're looking at Maxwell Hairston, I really do like AT out of Florida State a little bit better.
Okay.
That being said, the Packers to me scream Benjamin Morrison. Scream Benjamin Morrison, because imagine him, who was a ball hawk before he got hurt. It's a hip injury, so you do have to see what happens there. My concern with Revell is rooted in small school stuff, which sucks.
Okay.
Because there's small school guys Mike Green, a small school guy I adore.
Yeah.
Ashton Genty, I'd say Boise State's somewhat small.
Oh yeah. You would say they're small, absolutely.
So I hate riding into the sunset saying I hate small school guys, but it's like, okay, who'd he play against? Is he that good? We'll see what happens. Yeah. I think Sauce is somewhat the exception. Cincinnati had a ton of really big games that year. Mm-hmm. So we'll have to see what happens and go that route. Okay, next one I want to discuss with you. Going up this list, let's just get to it. Malachi Starks, safety, Baltimore Ravens. He does what Kyle Hamilton does.
Yes, that's the part that I don't get. They're the exact same safety. You need a box and you need a free range guy. They're both free range guys. What? You're gonna try to convince Kyle Hamilton to play the box where he's ineffective? Give me a break.
Which is why I like that South Carolina guy here. Way more than Starks.
That's fair. If you're trying to pair the specific safeties together, that's okay. I think Starks is the more talented safety, but if you're trying to pair them up, I'm more than okay with that. If you want to go that route, sure.
Agree. Totally.
Which, by the way, Kyle Hamilton's also due an extension as well, so good on him. And a reminder that you never pass on talent in the draft. Never pass on talent.
Agree, dude. It's unbelievable they got him, and it makes me so mad. But he's so good at football. Next name then would be the Luther Burden III, Houston Texans, Missouri. I feel like they're not gonna have Stephon Diggs back. I love Tank Dell, but that dude cannot stay healthy and truly start. And Nico Collins is, as much as I wanted to hate him, a freak of nature. And so I think Luther Burden then can step in and be a really, really, really effective and amazing number 2.
Yeah. You are not the only one that I know of that actually has question marks about Luther Burden, because after the Senior Bowl, probably like a week afterwards, I got a text from my brother because he's doing like research for Dynasty.
No way.
He always like asks me. He always asks me about rookies because like he knows I'm a draft nerd. So like he told me specifically, like before I even like uttered anything, he said one guy I do not like is Luther Burden, and I said, first off, you're not the only person that I know that is questionable about Luther Burden, but I stated my case that like yes, he's undersized, but man, there's just something about the guys that like were asked to do everything for an offense that like was put in every situation possible and stuff that I just have a soft spot for. He's, to me, Luther Burden and Tyler Warren essentially did the exact same thing for their teams. They essentially did. The only difference is that Tyler Warren is like a bit taller, and you're not relying on him to be like a potential like 1 or 2 receiver. You can like mix match in him whatever you want to do. Burden is a tough situation because he's 5'11", and if you're drafting him, he's probably pigeonholed as a slot receiver unless you want to get like chancy and make him like a number 2 receiver, perhaps. Like, but it depends on who you're putting him with. But like, I'm telling you, I still think Burden is going to be a pretty good pro, and I think he would
agree with that. He's just not going to be what you would expect, like a first round wide receiver. I don't know, man. I get it. It's situational.
Him and James Pierce coming into this year were both looked at as like the top prospects.
Agreed.
So, and I think that's kind of where we're at. Is that like Pierce is dropping because like he didn't produce as much as we did. Burden is dropping because while he was asked to do so much, he didn't. I don't want to say he didn't put up the stats necessarily to back that up, but it's also like guys probably like exceeded expectations to get more looks, or we kind of like put too many flaws on what Burden can versus what he can.
A little bit of both. I agree with that. I think Burden needs to fall to a good situation. Burden going to the Texans is the best situation you can think of, with Nico Collins as the one there.
Yes.
Last conversation we get to before Jackson Dart would be Ashton Genty, Denver Broncos. I don't hate it. I think Bo Nix is amazing. I could see them going Burden and really getting some version of a wide receiver 1 there.
Yeah. Marvin Mims has weirdly become like a pretty good like receiver there for them too.
What's that other dude's name?
What, Cortland Sutton?
No. ZZ, Zaza, VV, Vava, or whatever. Don Vele.
Oh, okay.
DeLon Vele. He had 41 receptions on 55 targets, 475 yards, 3 touchdowns last year. He turned on towards the end of it.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. This is a interesting one. I was always out on Javonte Williams. I think I was out on him before the injury, which I probably got lucky in being out on him because it turned into something.
Yeah.
I think that if you look at their roster, Jaleel McLaughlin, no.
Yeah.
Audric Estime, I liked out of Notre Dame a little bit, but we'll see what happens. And then, Mims, Sutton, they're fine.
Yeah.
The team just feels in limbo. I like Zach Allen. I like Benito. I like Surtain, obviously.
Oh no, I think the Broncos have fallen into a good situation where they realize like we have a rookie quarterback that can produce. So now is the time we have to start getting like guys to like fit this offense that Peyton wants to work with. So like I would be surprised if they address defense in the first round, unless it's like a someone that you're surprised fell this far that they would have trouble passing up. But like I would be shocked if they don't go offense in the first round.
Yeah, I could see. And the last name, really, before we break it down, Greg, is fucking Jackson Dart. I would be so beyond livid if we took Jackson Dart in the first round because of multiple reasons. The main one being we have once again proven that dropping a random quarterback into our system is not going to work. We did it twice this year.
What is it that I've always said is that like you don't reach for needs, in the draft because that's where you get screwed.
I hope Jackson Dart is good. I hope he's good. I hope he makes a lot of money. I hope he has a great life, beautiful family, whatever.
He was good. He was good at Ole Miss. I have nothing wrong with what he did.
He was fine.
Mm-hmm.
They have They have Lane Kiffin.
Yep.
You're in SEC with other talented guys. I don't know, man. I haven't seen a single thing out of him here's the one thing I'll say.
Okay.
Somebody was breaking down tape between Shedeur and Jackson Dart.
Okay.
Shadeur's tape is a lot of movement left to right, a lot of this to try to wait for someone to get open.
Mm-hmm.
Jackson Dart's tape was more similar, and I want to use this correctly, more similar, not identical, more similar to Drake Mays, meaning that Dart was north-south. If Dart didn't see it, he ran for the first down. If Dart didn't see it instantly, he threw it away forward. It wasn't, Shedeur and Cam making plays and trying. It was Jackson Dart going, cool, it's not there, I'm gone. I don't think that's what I want out of my NFL quarterback necessarily, but that is one thing I learned about him that I was like, okay, that makes me not want to throw up when I see these mocks. But Greg, there's not a single chance he thrives in Pittsburgh.
So so is this now you essentially coming to an understanding of what it is you want for a quarterback in the NFL? You want a guy that can progress through his reads, but you also want someone that isn't necessarily going to bail. He's going to try everything he can to extend the play.
I want somebody who is in a system not operated by our current coordinators.
Okay.
Because Greg, we're not going to win in this system. And so the more we draft a guy, the more we trade stock for Trevor Lawrence, the more we do all these things, I just don't understand how it doesn't make sense in my brain for someone to think Trevor Lawrence is the missing piece for us to do well, or that Jackson Dart coming in is the missing piece. Like, I understand a quarterback might be able to do it, but we are operating a horse and buggy offense in an F1 race. Yeah. No matter how you look at it, we're not going to win no matter who the quarterback is with this offensive scheme.
You know what's scary? The horse and buggy offense we run is an upgrade compared to the last offense we ran, which says a lot. Which really says a lot. Yeah, it's a bit scary. I was gonna say, did you want to talk about the story today that blew up?
Yeah. Let's finish the show. We got 15 minutes left.
Yeah. So what was it? It was originally. Was it originally Dre that sent the thing? It was. What
was funny is Dre sent a link. I swear, like a half second after Austin sent his link to us.
Yeah, it was impressive.
Which is so funny.
It was very impressive. So I called bullshit on it originally because I saw it was Pony. Because I don't. Yeah. Andrew Filipponi is a POS as far as I can.
Yeah.
On that one, but then what happened is Alan Saunders hopped on it, and Saunders is a real journalist, so I can understand the logic. But yeah, the rumor today was that the Steelers contacted the Jaguars about looking into Trevor Lawrence, and apparently the rumored price tag would be the first and second round pick of this year's draft, not like different ones. It would be this year's draft.
Yep. So
you asked me previously about trading Matt Stafford to the Giants for the number 3 overall pick and a 6th round pick. I was okay with that one. The reason I was okay with that one is because it's one pick. It is the number 3 overall pick, but it's one pick in a draft that doesn't have the best quarterback situation. You still have a bunch of other picks that I'm pretty sure the Giants have stockpiled. So you're still going to probably get a running back. You're still going to get some receiver help. You still can add to that defense if you want to. So the Giants can still build from that if you're going with there. And also, if it doesn't work out for Stafford probably has 2 years left, I imagine?
Hold on. 2 years at the top of the mountain, meaning 2 years. So what I'm trying to get at is he has 2 years left of being a really, really, really good NFL quarterback based on his elbow and based on his age.
Right.
After that, I'm sure he'll kick the tires on retirement or being a really Aaron Rodgers-esque mediocre quarterback. I would give him 2 more years at this level.
Okay, 2 more years at that.
Yeah.
That you would get from a pretty good quarterback for the good quarterback play that the Giants haven't had in a while. And you can still build your team around it. And realistically, you could also draft a quarterback in next year's class as like the guy waiting past Matt Stafford, which is a smart way to go. That's actually a good trade for me. What's not a good trade is trading your first and second round draft picks when you have a lot of holes to fill. You need a running back. You need a receiver.
Yep.
You need a defensive line help. You got to add to the secondary. Probably would also help to get more offensive line depth because you can never have too much of it. You're going to trade your top 2 assets in this class that can help you replenish some of that talent for a quarterback who, I have said this previously multiple times, has underachieved so bad in the NFL that it is not even funny, to say the least. Compared to the amount of hype that was shoved down our throats for as long as Trevor Lawrence has been playing football. And that makes no sense to me whatsoever. No. It doesn't. And you're going to pay, and you're going to have him on the roster for 5 or 6 more years with an escalating cap hit number that's going to eat up your salary cap space.
Which it doesn't matter how much we extend him for, because it's still the same amount of fucking money, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't. Yeah, well, it could change the cap. Dude, I don't understand why this magic misunderstanding about his skill set just happened to come into this group chat today. I love Ping. I know Ping is saying, like, I want something different. He's different. Do it. That angle I get, and that angle I see, and that angle, truly, that angle I can believe in.
Mm-hmm.
My problem is the copy-paste mentality of, well, if he's bad, we have a high pick, and if he's good, we have a quarterback. We are saying that same thing about Justin Fields, except we would still have a first and second pick.
Right.
Trevor Lawrence has had 2 years with 4K yards. Trevor Lawrence is the reason I got made fun of by Titans fans today. People in Tennessee watch him twice a year and said, I will laugh in your face if you trade for him. He is bad at football. Now, that is hate at its purest form. I totally get it. We hated Baker, and now we love Baker.
Right.
What I'm getting at, though, dude, is you can't give up that draft capital for an unproven guy when we have one at home who is much cheaper and signed to a 2-year deal in the same system we have been running.
Yeah.
And for people like Dre, who says to us, well, it sounds like you guys love him. If you love him so much, why don't you want him? We loved him in college.
Right.
When he was still a car on the lot. You drive the car off, and he killed a small family of Pekingese pigs on the way home. I don't have a car anymore. It's murked. It's tortured. It's ruined.
Oh.
It makes no sense why everyone in Pittsburgh now believes Trevor Lawrence is good. It's because he's 25, and it's because he threw for 4K yards twice. That team, again, you can say... So here's the other thing that pissed me off. I brought up Jacksonville has been doing an AFC championship game more recently than us and has won a playoff game more recently than us.
Which is true.
But then Dre takes that and goes, yeah, Trevor Lawrence won a playoff game before us. Why don't we want him? No. The argument was that they are a competent, talented team, and he's not working out. Why on God's green earth, on our pile of shit, would that work out?
It wouldn't.
Ever.
It wouldn't.
Makes no sense.
I don't know. I'm not buying into them like actively going into talks. I'm looking at it from like, oh, they're
kicking the tires.
They kicked the tires. They were curious what it would cost them, and it doesn't mean it's actually going to happen. And if that's the Jaguars' price tag, then good on them. Because I think there is still some hope for Trevor Lawrence to be a productive NFL quarterback, but man, it's been what, 5 years? He was drafted in 2020, right? No, 2020. He was drafted in 2020. He's been in the league for 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24. He's been in the league for 5 years now. And Herbert and Tua, I would take over him. Jalen Hurts was drafted in that same class and won a Super Bowl already. Pretty sure Purdy was from that class as well and got to a Super Bowl. So
Lawrence was drafted. His rookie year was 21.
Okay.
This was his 4th year.
Mm-hmm.
He has had 2 years above 65% completion, 2 years above 4K with one at 36. 2 years in his career. He has 12 touchdowns, 25 touchdowns, 21 touchdowns, and 11 last year. He has 17 interceptions, 8, 14, 7. He is not a terrible quarterback. He is also not good enough to be plopped into our goddamn system and succeed. The other part of that pissed me off is when I'm bringing up they signed Gabe Davis, they signed Christian Kirk, they signed Evan Ingram, they drafted Travis Etienne. They did everything humanly possible for this guy to succeed.
Right.
It then turns into a conversation with these dumb fucking people and Steelers fans, Greg, who go, well, Christian Kirk wasn't good at football. Okay, but they had to pay that to get him a weapon, and it didn't work out. Why is that not his fault? That ball they hold, he throws it.
He does.
Like he gets that ball to the receivers that get a ton of money. He hands that ball to running backs who get a lot of money.
Yes,
it blows my mind why we're ignoring that.
I like it. Yeah.
Well, if he had a competent coach, Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl.
He did. The Philly special without a franchise quarterback, with a backup, by the way. With a backup.
What are we doing here, man?
Yeah,
it is crazy the blinders we've just put on.
No, I think it's just we're desperate for something tangible that therefore we are ignoring a lot of the signs around us.
All of them.
We are ignoring all the bad signs around us just for the sake of wanting something that we think will make us immediately better. And it's not the case at all. I would much rather roll the dice on Fields. I would much rather use the excess money that we have on other areas to replenish that team. And if it works out well for Justin Fields, awesome. If it doesn't work out for Justin Fields, okay. We still have draft picks that we were able to keep and still have on their roster. So, because granted, if it doesn't work out for Justin Fields, guess what? We probably have a defensive tackle and wide receiver on our team we wouldn't have had previously that are probably still pretty good.
Agreed.
At least that's where I'm looking at it. And I hope Trevor Lawrence finds a way to be good.
Dude, if we signed him, if we traded for him and he won us a Super Bowl in 2 years, I will write handwritten note apologies.
Sure.
It's just not happening with our coordinators. It's not happening with our head coach right now. It just isn't, dude.
No.
All right, Greg, another wonderful episode of Two Beers Deep, my friend.
As always, sir. Yes, it is going to be an enjoyable time as always.
It was an enjoyable time.
Yes, I messed up on my English language there. Yeah, that happens.
Good job.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'll catch you guys next week, same time, same place. Hopefully, we're not talking about Trevor goddamn Lawrence.
Oh, hopefully not. But amazingly enough, I'm proud of the fact that just from one text in a group chat that we were able to kill that much time on our show.
Moorhead needs beat up for sending that in there.
Yeah, that's true. He wasn't even part of the conversation. It was hanging Dragos.
Threw a hand grenade into the mall and just left.
Yeah, just giggled like an evil genius while the rest of us were scrambling.
Facts. All right, we'll catch you guys next week on Two Beers Deep. Greg, you have a wonderful rest of your evening, my friend.
You too. You enjoyed Gatlinburg this weekend, sir.
I will. Mm-hmm. See you guys next week. Cool. And we are out, my friend.
Yeah. Enjoy the Smoky Mountains, man. I've heard good things.
Yeah. I'm excited, buddy. I'll let you know how it goes.
All right, man. Have a lovely time.